In this presentation, I will go through some success tips for beginning educators. These tips can be for any sort of educators, such as teachers and speech language pathologists. The tips that I wanted to share are engagement, self-reflection, support, and motivate. The first tip is about engagement. It's important for educators to be involved in each individual student's learning. Students should engage in learning activities to show that they actually understood what was being taught. Constructivist approach can be an example of engagement because it is a process of learning new knowledge from previous experiences. Connecting to constructivist approach is metacognition, which is a process of learning your own learning process, finding a solution to the task at hand. So I wanted to relate this to my field observation project. This related to my field observation project by social constructivism was represented in my first observation by the interactions between people in the same positions but from different areas. So my first field experience was about going to a spring leadership meeting, and there were different tables with the people at the table were from the same positions, but they were from different areas, different stores, or different locations, and they were able to collaborate with each other and share their ideas and share their experiences and come up with solutions to some of the problems and activities that they had that day. To relate this to speech language pathology, the engagement with your clients, asking them questions about scenarios to see if they can fill in the blanks. You will need to engage with the client, their families, their caregiver, and other professionals for the most successful tips treatment for their client. Some technologies that can be used for engagement would be group activities, making the lesson more fun, or maybe using some apps on the tablet to engage with your students. Self-reflection would be the second tip that I wanted to speak about. It is important to reflect on the structure of your office or your classroom, your teaching approach, your self behavior, and how you present your assignments. You can also create new ways of learning because each individual client is unique. Social cognitive theory reflects on the connection between the environment, the person, and the behavior to describe how people learn. Albert Bandura was the founder of social cognitive theory by studying studying aggressive behaviors in children. The relation to my field experience with or field observation with self-reflection would be for my second observation, I watched the film. It was called Matilda. I observed that the teachers reacting with aggression toward the students by yelling and having harsh punishments. In turn, the students at the end of the movie threw food and laughed at the teacher. So in a sense, it proved the theory true, as in what students are watch and are taught, they do the same. But then again, it is also related to that individual student, that person, that their behavior, their reactions to things, and how they react to things is all a part of social cognitive theory. Speech language pathology, relating to that, would be like after a session, you should reflect on you teaching and asking yourself, like, did the materials help that client today? How can we successfully make the material unique for this individual client? Because each individual client is different. Making sure that the assessments and the therapy treatments are culturally appropriate, because you want to make sure that every individual client is appreciated, valued, and to make sure that you fully understand their background, where they come from, what they value, and things like that. And you show them respect for all that. Some technologies for self-reflection would be maybe recording your classroom, like recording your class session, or your classroom, or your session at a speech language pathology office. There was a website. It was called Ethna, and this website helps provide goals, self-reflection, and planning for your classroom or for your office. The next tip is support. So being there for your client or your student and their families, or their caregiver, is a huge role that educators and practitioners play in their everyday role. Support your students' learning and guide them throughout every step of their, so that they are not afraid or getting frustrated when they're presented with new material or new assignments or tasks. You want to always make sure that you're there for them and they know that you're there for them to walk them through each step. Make the student feel valued, heard, and understood. Um, have a variety of materials so that your assignments or your treatments are diverse. To relate this to my field observation, my observation took place in a leadership meeting for a corporate business, as I mentioned before. Um, I think that by having a leadership meeting for all of the managers and supervisors to continue their learning and to build off of each other in their shows the example in all shows an example of support, because you're supported by them holding this meeting to further your education and to support you in any questions or any confusions you may have, and then you can go back to your coworkers or your employees and you can help them and guide them throughout the processes of their employment. They also played games with different scenarios. There was a self-assessment quiz and a variety of different table games they played. This was during the activities. There were other team members walking around and to assist everybody. So like there would be supervisors walking around each table trying to explain to them why they would do it this way or that way, or even asking like, well, why did you think that this was the correct way, or how could we make the situation better and keep the employee a job instead of making them walk out on a job. Relating this to speech language pathology, being a therapist is a huge responsibility to support your client and their family and caregiver. You you never want them to feel like they cannot achieve a goal. For this, for support, is probably be some AACs to communicate better and support each individual student. So motivate is the last tip that I wanted to talk about. What motivates, the question that you really need to be asking for your client or your student is, what does motivate them? What do they like? What are their interests? Create an approach to teaching and or treatment that motivates your students or your clients to learn and want to reach their goals. Create self-efficacy. This is confidence in a particular task. So you want to create this in yourself, your students, and your clients. This will reflect self-appraisal and self-potential, and their true potential, so that they know that they are confident in each individual task. Also, always approach your students and clients with a positive attitude and excitement for new learning. This will motivate them to want to learn. And to relate this to my field observation project, during a film, there was a teacher that was the opposite of the aggressive teacher that I mentioned before. Her name was Miss Honey. She was very sweet, thoughtful, welcoming, and supportive to her students. And having such quality in a teacher is the reason why the students looked up to her as a role model and someone that they could come to for support. Relating this to speech language pathology, building autonomy with a client so that they have the choice in their learning process is very motivating for the student to want to learn because they're more involved in the process, and give them rewards for their achievements to create motivation so that they know that at the end of achieving a goal there is a reward, and so there's a reason of why we want to achieve this goal. Some technologies would be visual timers, AAC, and gaming apps. This will motivate the children to, for example, have like a timer to when they need to be done with this assignment, or maybe having some AACs or gaming apps that is more comfortable than just standardized assessments or standardized assignments. So I will take these success tips with me into my career as a speech language pathologist, and this is because I want to show that I want to show each of my clients that no matter what we are faced with, we are going to face this together. We're going to work through this together. We're going to motivate each other. We're going to support each other. And we're going to reflect on the things that may and may not work. And also, we're going to be engaged in the process with different professionals, with each other, with the family, and so that way that we can reach this end goal. And these are my references. Thank you.